It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Without further ado, here's our fearless host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome back to a special episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and it's special when I bring somebody back for a second discussion, but unfortunately I wish it were under better conditions as we are all currently dealing with the specter of the coronavirus looming over not just the United States, but it's blanketed the world, and so many people are, up in arms and really honestly fearful about what's going on and what's happening. And I have actually reached out to a lot of different professionals in Northwest Arkansas that provide all kinds of services to see how can we, as consumers, as small business owners, as medium-sized business owners, as large business owners, how can we protect ourselves in light of everything else that's going on? And so I actually asked the folks from Edafio Technology Partners. I don't know if you remember Kinley, who is the CEO and president of Edafio. Kenny came on the episode a little while back here on I Am Northwest Arkansas and really shared the vision of the company. And, they're not just a technology service provider. They do quite a bit in the area of IT specifically, but then they cover everything with regard to cybersecurity. They deal with the cloud as a whole and just having a better understanding of how businesses and individuals can use the cloud. But I spoke to these guys the other day and I said, we should probably do an episode where we talk about just where things are right now, the state of affairs. And, they came up with some really good ideas in terms of ways that businesses can help protect themselves and their customers and their employees for that matter. And also, how are we going to deal with things from a social distancing perspective? Everybody's got to be 6 feet away from each other. So it's kind of hard to go into certain office environments and work, shoulder to shoulder with your colleagues. And so these folks at Edafio have been doing this for years and have quite a bit of experience under their belt. And so I asked Will Smothers, I asked Angeline Button, and I also asked Sam Grubbs. Before you think it or ask, he's no relation to the Grubbs restaurant empire. I already asked him about that, but that's just a joke. But seriously, I asked these guys to come on and just share with us just a little bit about what they're experiencing on the front lines of information technology and network operations and cybersecurity and everything that's going on. And I just appreciate you guys coming on. I know it's a long-winded intro, but how are you guys doing?
Great, thanks.
Yeah, good.
Good. Awesome. Well, that's great. Okay. Well, we are going to kind of move it around and rotate around and just kind of share with the audience. But we had, lately, I know that I was share some information that your team shared with me. Melissa Swan, who's your director of marketing, shared some information about how, this whole COVID-19 outbreak has really created a large demand for internet service. AT&T, Comcast, so many others, they're actually removing data caps temporarily at least, and they're increasing speeds, and some are even offering free service. So I'd love for you, first of all, just to speak about that, because that speaks specifically to access and what people need, especially businesses. I don't know, Will, if you want to start with that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, obviously during the COVID-19 and the social distancing and all the new regulations that have been put into place, as well as a lot of the curfews and things of that nature. It's not only put a strain on businesses, it's also putting strain on families, and specifically families in rural areas such as Arkansas that may or may not have access to good internet or maybe don't have internet at all. So there's a number of companies out there that are providing for the next 60 days or so free to low cost internet service. They're offering free Wi-Fi services at all their hotspots across the nation. And a lot of those are offering them, especially if you have students, whether they be in public schools, private schools, or if they're in colleges. Consumer Reports has got a great website that has a list of all of these service providers, obviously not every single one of them, but a large number of the major national chain folks who are offering this. So I would recommend just doing a quick Google search for Consumer Reports, ISP, Corona Pandemic. And it should come up right away, and scroll down about halfway through the page, and you'll start seeing the list of all the providers who are offering free and low-cost services and what those are and what they're doing. Additionally, on top of service providers, there are also things like utilities that are suspending things, right? They're suspending late fees. They're not going to cancel service if you're unable to pay during this time period because so many people work for hourly wages, things of that nature. So it seems that a lot of the businesses throughout the country are really coming together to help alleviate some of the problems that the common Americans are going to be dealing with throughout the next couple of months.
Yeah. And I know I got a list of them, and we'll put a list of all of this in the show notes because I think people will want to know where to go. And I think that information is valuable. So what are you guys hearing? I mean, you guys are on the front line. So you're hearing from firms that are saying, oh my God, we now have to send everybody home. Did you guys kind of create a punch list that firms need to have before they start sending their people home? So that they can remote work, because not everybody does remote work, right? So in some verticals, that's like heresy. Nowadays, it's like, okay, it's just the status quo, right? Everybody wants to like before it was like, well, I don't think I want to homeschool my kids. Now everybody wants to homeschool their kids, and the same thing with working. I can't work from, or it wasn't I don't want to work from home. It was I can't work from home. Now businesses are forcing you to work from home in a lot of instances. So what are your recommendations for companies that are finally faced with this? And it's almost like they're being arm twisted by, rules and laws that the government is now placing on us and saying that, hey, you're going to have to shelter in place. I have a family member that's out in the Bay Area. They can't go anywhere for like 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, outside of just normal runs. So what are your thoughts about that, or what will your recommendations be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing to start talking about. Obviously, working from home or working remotely has been around for 15 years. But even today, only about 30% of all employees who can or have the capability of working from home actually do it. Now, that may be because of pressure from their company. It may be for other reasons, lack, as we talked about a minute ago, lack of broadband internet, things of that nature. However, today we're really being forced to do that, and people just don't know how to do it. So, I have been very fortunate, and several of the other folks on the call as well have been very fortunate to work for some very large companies who embraced remote connectivity and remote working. And the folks that I have seen who have either worked with me or for me, who have been really, really successful in this, take working from home just like they do working in the office, right? So they get up in the morning, they take a shower, they get dressed, and they commute from their shower or their bedroom to their home office, wherever that may be. It's a dedicated space. Maybe it's a corner of your kitchen. Maybe it is an actual home office, but they commute there. They close the door or they put up a do not disturb sign, and they work. And that's what they do all day, is they work all day on whatever their project may be, whatever their tasks may be. That is their job, and they treat it just like they would if they're in the office. The biggest drawback in the early days, and we've kind of overcome a lot of these hurdles, was feeling isolated. I'm here all day by myself, working by myself. I get home, or the rest of my family gets home, and they want to socially interact, and I'm just drained. I don't want to do it. So obviously, we have lots of tools available to us today to do that. Video conferencing, video calling, those are all massive new tools that allow folks to be able to feel more connected. Reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm having a problem. Can you take a look at this with me and collaborate on a document or whatever they may be able to be working on? And, we at Edafio, we have a number of those tools in our toolkit to help companies with that. But we really like Teams. It's a nice utility that has a lot of hooks and ties into the other standard office productivity suites that everyone is used to: Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook. It ties in with all of those, makes it really easy to use. And you don't necessarily have to be an Office 365 subscriber to use them. There is a free version of Teams that is very, very useful that Microsoft is basically giving everyone access to, especially during this time away. If you use Microsoft utilities, it's a very intuitive tool. So that's a great kind of, I don't want to say a punch list, but kind of some guidelines to be successful, right? But working from home, obviously you're going to have some distractions, kids, dogs, spouse, significant other, whatever the case may be. And so having that space to yourself that you can kind of close yourself in helps isolate you from some of that distraction. Many of the companies we work with and many companies that are out there today already have infrastructure in place to allow their employees to work remotely. The problem is most of them have not done it at scale. So they maybe are set up to allow one or two of their employees to work remotely. But now we're talking about taking 90% of their workforce and sending them home, 90% plus. So they're not set for that. They're not scaled for it. Obviously, Edafio, that's kind of right in our wheelhouse. That's what we can help them do. We can help them get ready for that, or if they're already in the midst of it, we can help make them more efficient, make their things work a little bit better. And it's not necessarily just leveraging traditional things like virtual private networks or VPNs, right? It's taking a look at how your business works and trying to get you the best solution as quickly as possible to keep you up and running and efficient. What I mean by that is you maybe are using traditional file shares inside of your business, right? Everybody connects to a server and pulls the file off and works on it. Well, you may not be able to do that very efficiently when you're working remotely at scale. You may have to leverage a software as a service technology like SharePoint or Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox or any of the other number of file sharing solutions that are out there. So we don't try to take a one-size-fits-all approach. We're going to help you understand what can we do quickly and what is the right thing for you and your business to make sure we keep your people working, we keep you productive, and we keep you being profitable.
So I think the key that I heard in everything that you said, and you really laid it out nicely, is that you don't take a cookie cutter approach to addressing this problem. So one business owner down the street with 30 employees and another business owner up the street, they're both friends. He might have 50 employees. They might have totally different needs when it comes to VPN, when it comes to software as a service. And so you are able to quickly kind of look at that and make some recommendations about the easiest way for them to get things set up.
Sure. And that, I think that encapsulates it very nicely, Randy. And to your point, you may have two businesses side by side. They're the exact same size, but, one's a doctor's office and the other one is a quickie mart. Two totally different needs, right? One has to deal with HIPAA. The other one has to deal with credit cards, PCI compliance, things of that nature. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up doctor's offices, because I know that's actually one of the niches that you serve. That's a big market. When you came up here from Central Arkansas to Rogers, you had done a lot of work with accountants and other firms, and then you had done a lot of work in the healthcare space. How is what's happening with COVID-19 going to impact you guys in terms of the solutions that you're going to need to provide for your clients, given everything that's going on? I'm just imagining that the system is just going to be overrun with just a lot of new people, right? I mean, you've got drive-through clinics now and everything. So how are you guys able to address that?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and it really brings into light the whole issue of working remotely. I mean, in reality, because you have the drive-through clinics that have to deal with PCI or HIPAA compliance, and so you've got to be able to give them a secure solution for that, to where the patient feels like their privacy matters, but you're giving them the folks who are working at the ability to get the information they need to help that patient adequately. And so, we will definitely be take a look at those type of situations and help them figure out, hey, do you need to be using a software as a service, electronic medical records, or how can we get you access in that remote location to your your electronic medical records that sit in your doctor's office as opposed to up in the cloud. And maybe VPN is the right solution. Maybe accessing it through some type of web interface is more efficient. So, but the big thing for us is making sure that those healthcare professionals have what they need to get their job done, because right now, having served in the military for 11 years, they're kind of the front lines, right? They're kind of the infantry right now. Those are the guys who are dealing, and girls, who are dealing with the brunt of this problem. And those folks can't work from home. They don't have the luxury that the rest of us do. They are dealing with it every day. They're exposed to it every day, and they can't necessarily take time off to help them. So our goal is to make them efficient, keep them productive and healthy, so that they can continue to help the rest of us out.
And if I can jump in here, this is Sam. Just want to add in there, Will mentioned the compliance piece of it, the HIPAA. And, part of what we also want to make sure is that when they are implementing these solutions, or they move to, there's a lot of telehealth, if you will, where, I know that University of Arkansas Medical System is offering screenings via online sessions. Yeah. So making sure that those are answer any of those compliance questions that they might have. We have security and healthcare consultants that can answer those questions really quickly, so that if they have a question about, how does OCR, which regulates all this stuff, how are they dealing with this? How are they going to look at this? What do they want you to do for these sorts of things? We can quickly answer those.
Yeah, no, I listened to that this morning. I was listening to something, and then I kind of pushed out that information because that they were UAMS was putting that information out there. And then on top of that, Children's also put out a call-in telehealth line if you suspect that your child may have the coronavirus. And I think it's just important that people know that. I'll be sure to put that information in the show notes, because I have a sneaking suspicion that website and those phone numbers are going to be in use 24/7 for several days and weeks ahead. So I'll definitely share that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and just to give Will a little bit of a break, because he's been talking a lot. Then certainly, why don't we have Sam and Angel jump in a little bit? And I know, Sam, you and I talked, and Angel too. We talked a little bit about the another issue that's come up with this whole pandemic is that people are going to be taken advantage of. And we talked about phishing and the importance of that. And I would love for you guys, because you deal with cyber attacks on a regular basis. And I think sometimes if it doesn't happen to us, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But cyber attacks is a real thing. And businesses need to protect themselves from cyber attacks. There can be financial loss because of a cyber attack, and there can also be lawsuits because of cyber attacks. So
absolutely,
there are a multitude of issues there, and I would love for you just to kind of speak about that from the business perspective, and then we'll end and we'll get to the individuals and how they may be able to protect themselves.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, just what you were saying, there's a lot of exploitation that goes on with any sort of major event like this, whether it be, a cybersecurity attack or somebody selling toilet paper for $50 a pop on Facebook Marketplace. I mean, a wide gambit there. But I think the big thing is that from a business perspective, what we see here is that there's a normal level of vulnerability that any business has to social engineering attacks. And when we say social engineering, mainly we're talking about phishing. which is when somebody sends you an email, they're trying to get you to click a link, enter information. They're pretending to be somebody you know, your CEO or a coworker, somebody you do business with, and they're just trying to get information or access to your credentials, get you to download malware so that they can further exploit you. And that's a normal everyday vulnerability. You're going to be dealing with that all the time anyways. But when we have something like this epidemic, the issue is that there is so much thought process, emotional energy that is your employees will have around that event, that a phishing email becomes even more dangerous. With a good phishing email, I have to do some research. I have to figure out what your business is, who I'm sending it to. The old adage, which whenever I bring up, I used to do cybersecurity teaching, and whenever I would bring up phishing, inevitably someone would be like, "Oh yeah, the Nigerian prince scam." We all know that. The old, "I'm a Nigerian prince. I have $1 million. Just send me a bank account number. I'll give you the money." Yeah. And that's really not what phishing is anymore. Those sorts of things don't work because everyone knows about them. And so they have to do research. They have to really personalize it, and they'll take the time to do that. Attackers will take the time to do that. But with something like this, they don't have to do that. They can use the common knowledge, the stuff that's going on in the world that they know everyone knows about, and use that as their attack point. So we've been seeing all sorts of examples of COVID-related emails that are going out. One of the big ones is CDC and World Health Organization bulletins. So you'll get an email, and it looks like it's a bulletin from the CDC or World Health Organization that says, "Hey, we have some new updates about the coronavirus. Click here to find out about them." Really easy, people are interested in this. They want to know. They have some panic behind it, some anxiety behind it, and so they'll click without even thinking, why is the CDC directly emailing me? That seems a little weird, right?
Yeah.
We also see a lot of things that are exploiting people's financial situation. Insurance companies or fake insurance coverage emails saying, "Hey, in order to be covered for any corona-related expenses, you need to click here and enter your information," right? And they'll grab information that way, or get you to click a link to download malware. Looking at things like college students receiving emails about closings or other things. There's emails talking about company policy, and this could really especially hit people who are I'm losing my words here, but wage earners, working
Right.
hourly salary. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Because, they may receive an email to their personal account that says, "Hey, if you are a wage earner, click here. This is a government program to, give you some relief."
And they're already desperate for cash as it is.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
These attackers, they don't care. They're despicable in my mind.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing this just in email. We're seeing this across all sorts of different things. Android apps, and I'm not sure if we've seen Android apps. I'm not sure if we've specifically seen iPhone apps, but it's a very real possibility of virus tracking. So you want to see, how the infection is affecting your city, maybe even down to the neighborhood, right? And I'm using that loosely because these don't do anything. They're just exploiting your system. We've also seen malware kits that are used to create web pages, and they look really good. I mean, they've got a nice map of the world. There's all these little red circles. It looks like something out of a movie, like Contagion or something like that.
Yeah.
But they are using known exploits in things like Java to download malware onto your system when you go to that website. And organizations, cyber criminals, have started selling these things, these kits for $200 to $700. So not a high price point to create your own sort of corona malware kit that you can then use to try to exploit people. And the thing that we really worry about is, again, hitting those people that are really desperate, especially things for, diapers, formula, baby food. I have a toddler right now who drinks a gallon of milk a day, it seems. And so if I'm seeing something that comes in that says something about, milk coupons or milk shortage or something like that, I'm more likely to click.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of getting from high level. You're going to have things coming into your business about insurance, about time off, about policy, and going down to the more personal things about money for yourself and supplies and these sorts of things.
Yeah. And so, to add to this, what would you say to, I'm a small business owner. I've got a bunch of employees. What would you say to our team if we brought you in to say what can we do to protect ourselves from it, outside of just being very cautious to read and reread and triple read the information that's coming through? Because a lot of times it's just the little things, like there are misspellings and things that should be capitalized aren't. And most businesses that put any kind of information out to their customer or client base takes great pains to put things out without a lot of clerical errors. And that's probably like the first sign. But what would you say?
To your point, yes, that's true. But even now, clerical errors they've apparently, these hackers have gone to school and read some grammar books, because they're doing really well at spelling things correctly and that sort of stuff. So the real things is protect yourself technically, as well as, just in the way that you do business. So the big thing is making sure that you have strong passwords that you're putting in place. Never share your password. Never enter in a credential unless you absolutely trust where you're entering it into. And honestly, the biggest thing for us when it comes to this phishing stuff is enabling multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
If you can, and it is something that is an extra feature that may cost additional money, but there's a lot of places where you can get multi-factor, where you can, it's not necessarily a pain point in terms of price as you might think, and it really, really, really helps when it comes to these phishing attacks, because it's so much more difficult for them to get access to that second factor of authentication than it is for them to get a password.
Can you just for the audience, just give them like in layman's terms, the best understanding of multi-factor so they get it? Because I totally understand what you're saying. Everything I do is multi-factor, but it's a pain, but I just want people to have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So multi-factor is where you have usually you have your password, username, password. So let's take Microsoft 365, for example, since it's a product a lot of people are familiar with. Mm-hmm. You type in your username, you type in your password, you hit enter. At that point, it's going to ask you if you want to use your multi-factor, if you want to get a verification code, usually by phone number or email. Mm-hmm. So that's your second factor. That's the multi-factor part. So it will text a code to your phone or send an email with a code in there, and you have to enter that code in order to get access, right? So it's, again, very hard for the hacker to get access to both your phone and your password at the same time in order to get that code. Now, it's not impossible. I'm not going to say that this will solve all your problems, but your most basic level of attacks that are going out there are going to be thoroughly mitigated by this. And then, you want for a small business like this, you want to make sure that you have your antivirus installed, right? That you have that up to date, that you have all your patches and stuff, especially if you're taking your device home for these long periods of times. You want to make sure that you're still routinely checking and updating those definitions and those patches. And then from the IT sort of side, this is more for a mid to large tier organization, but on the IT side, you want to emphasize checking login activity a lot more than you might normally, especially these remote sessions.
Yeah.
And geolocation is going to be critical here as well. Nobody is going to be logging in from China. these days, or any other
exactly.
country. We're not moving, so we should all be logging in from a very distinct small location. So if you're seeing logins that are coming from areas outside of where your employees are, then that's obviously a big red flag that there's some sort of compromise. So these sorts of things will really keep you safe. And then on the sort of keeping your awareness side, anything that has COVID in it is immediately suspicious. Anything at all, even if it comes from your CEO, even if it comes from your cube mate who's your best friend that you've known for 10 years, it should all be suspicious. You just need to make sure when you're checking these emails, the first thing you can do is you can hover over the name and see where the email actually came from. Sometimes there is a name that pops up like Sam Grubb, and you're like, oh, that's Sam Grubb. But then the email address is, IT at whatever weird hacker domain.com.
Right.
And so checking those things, making sure that it's actually coming from an email that you recognized and that sort of stuff. Angel, is there other things you want to add?
I probably would add in there for mid to large size companies that we should also look at strengthening, and Will could probably speak to that more for O365. But you need like an email firewall that is doing your frontline analysis on the attachments, sandboxing it, evaluating it. Your phishing, the links are part of the threat feed already that is showing that it's malicious. So that kind of intelligence beforehand where it's blocking or quarantining it is important as well.
And it sounds like, between what you guys are talking about, one of the easiest points of entry for a hacker, for somebody phishing, is through email. It's because that information gets in there, and then unfortunately, if somebody clicks, what happens then? What do we do if somebody has clicked on something and then realize, oh my gosh, this is whatever I clicked into is Pandora's box? How do you deal with it then? Are we screwed at that point, or is there still hope for us?
Sam, if you want, I'll do the personal aspect part of that, and then you could do what you do if you're part of a business.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So for personal, if you believe you've entered your credentials from a suspicious link, it's important to immediately change your password using a strong password. There's not a variation in any way, shape, or form with any part of your old password. So if your old password was Angel Button 1, which please don't ever do that, it should never be Angel Button 2, so. Right. If you have to open up a book in your, and random page and look up, some part of the words there and pick that for your password, that's fine. That's random. But don't use Angel Button 1. And then, of course, implement multi-factor authentication. If it's not enabled for personal accounts, I have not run across an account where I couldn't enable that for free. So it's worth doing a little bit of research to find out how to do it. If you believe you've downloaded a suspicious attachment from an email, it's always recommended disconnect your device from the internet and take it to a professional to have it checked for malware. You can also change your email password using another device. And if you're using that password for any other account, which we definitely don't recommend, but if you are, change your password on all the accounts as well. And then we would implement a password manager. Go ahead and find one. There's LastPass. There's a whole bunch of different choices. You can get them installed on your phone and use that to store all your passwords in the future.
Yeah, I use LastPass personally, and I love it because it creates the passwords that it creates. I'm like, there's like nobody that would figure this out ever. And I can't even remember it. So, it's just, there's definitely a level of security there. And I have not been, thankfully, knock on wood, I have not been attacked because of that. I've been very careful about that. But multi-factor authentication is, to me, the way to go. And I think even if people have just been loath to use it because it is an extra step, trust me when I say this, as a victim of identity theft, that extra step is well worth it.
Absolutely. There's some password managers in LastPass I haven't played around with recently, but I wonder if it doesn't have it. where it's also monitoring you on the dark web to see if you're coming up in any of the breaches, if your password combination is, and it notifies you as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that with some companies that provide credit monitoring, and actually the company that I use, and I think LastPass has a portion of that does keep track of my information, because I have been notified a few times, but since my last big identity theft experience, I have not had anything nearly as bad as some of the stuff that I hear from other people. So. But I just think there is nothing wrong with being cautious and making sure that you definitely have put some systems in place, and even if you have to spend a little bit of money, the amount of sanity that provides and just security is well worth it.
Absolutely.
I know that a lot of the password managers also have family features. So if you are hesitant to use it on your personal account because you know that you have a grandparent or wife who may be using a service like Netflix or something like that, there's a family feature where you can share those passwords out so that they'll have access to them as well.
Yeah. I actually have. I mean, I think it's when I was putting our will together, I actually put there's this like a password key that you can create in case something happens to somebody in the family. Because I know people's fear are, oh, I create this password, then if something happens to me, my spouse or whomever, they don't have access to get any of that. So you can pretty much do that nowadays with all of these services. Even with Facebook, if something were to happen to you and you want somebody to, because your social media profile, all that other stuff exists out there. So you want to give people access to it if they need to either close those things down or close them up in a proper way. And so it's certainly want to try to take advantage of that and understand that a lot of these safeguards have been put in place to address issues that, you hope would never come up. But if they do, you can deal with them. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So okay.
From a business perspective about clicking the link, the big thing is that we want to limit what sort of activity that person, whoever accessed that account, is able to do. So again, changing the password on the account if you hear from a user that they've clicked a link, changing that password, checking the login activity, but then also making sure to check across multiple users. Likely that if one person received the email, more than one person received it. Doing some message tracing in order to see who received that email, and looking to see if there's any other additional activity from the user that clicked the account. So did they set up inbox rules is a big one. Did they set up any sort of account not account takeover, but account allocation, allowing people to access other people to access their account. These sorts of things that attackers will use in order to try to remain persistent in the account. And then, again, enabling multi-factor is always good after something like this has happened. Yeah. Angel, you want to add some stuff?
The message traces are good for rules, as you mentioned. Any kind of forwards going to be deleted. Any kind of forwards going to your RSS feed was another little trick that they do. They also will start replying to emails as they've sent out an email from your account. But that's another thing that they'll start doing. That's another phishing campaign. And they'll start replying back to tell people to open it. If they question it, you have to look for that kind of activity. I'm trying to think. There was something else that they do that we kind of watch for. If it just slipped my mind. If it comes back to me, I will let you know.
And then I guess one of the big things is that if this does happen to you and I work at a firm, I need to report this to somebody. Who should I report this to? Because I mean, again, I might be embarrassed that this happened to me, but it happens to a lot of people. So how do we encourage people to step up and say, hey, let somebody know right away? Because not only will it impact you, but it could start to impact everybody else on your team.
Absolutely. The issue with that phishing campaign and the credentials is that they're going to log into your account and they tend to sleep on it for a while and stay within your account, and they start collecting information. then they'll send out an email and start a lateral movement, right? So it'll start from your account, and they will send out emails legitimately to other people within the company and outside of the company, coming from a legitimate account, which is yourself. And then they're going to enter those credentials. So if you're concerned that you've entered your credentials and it's suspicious, definitely talk to anyone in your IT department if you don't have a security department, and let them know. And they can research it further for you.
Yeah. Now with Edafio, if you have a client, do you guys have it set up where a client would just have their people just contact you directly, or is there kind of like a layer before they actually get to you?
That really just depends on how the client interacts with us and what services that we provide. So we offer incident response services. So if you have your own internal IT department and you know there is an incident and you're looking at it and you're thinking, we really don't know where to go. Even if you understand, from a technical aspect, what's going on, there's a lot of things about management, communication, additional threats, compliance, these sorts of things that you might have to deal with. And we're experts in that. So we can handle a lot of these management processes and report writing and all this other stuff to really get a handle on that incident. And then, of course, so you can contact us directly, and then we also offer as an MSP, we have help desk support services that we provide, and in that case, those help desk support services also pass things along to us that we look at to see if there's any sort of security incident that needs to be investigated.
Okay, and then you guys are
there's
available.
This one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Angel.
There's this one quote that I had found on Edafio site, or a document that I had read recently, that kind of hit it. It hit for me what Edafio does for small and large businesses. It says, a wise person once said, "You do not drown by falling in the water, you drown by staying there." So our job is to be the lifeguards when our clients fall into the water. So I thought that was a really good quote to kind of establish what we as Edafio do for our clients.
I love that. And people are going to fall into the water. I mean, these issues are going to come up. Phishing is going to happen. It's not going to go away as long as people are out there looking to take advantage of other people. And then on top of everything else, there's always going to be, whether it's the coronavirus or COVID-19 right now or something else in the future, there's always going to be something that is going to technically threaten the backbone and infrastructure of the technology that you need to run your business. And you're always going to need somebody like Edafio to help you out with in that case, just so that you can weather the storm. And also, just sometimes it's just good to have somebody to tell you that, hey, everything's going to be okay. We got you and we'll fix it. So, I'm sure that's a relief when that comes out of your mouths, Will or Angel or Tom. I'm sure that folks really, really like that. So,
yeah, and that's the big thing about this.
I'm sorry, I said Tom. I meant Sam. So I apologize about that. So
you're fine. You're
please
fine.
Forgive me.
I will pretty much answer to any name. But that's the big thing is that, when we look at something like this, we try to figure out what is not only how to find the incident, contain the incident, but then what is best for the business. How are we going to help you in order to, still meet whatever objectives you need to meet, still have the best for your employees and that sort of stuff. We consider these things. It's not just, okay, well, we're just looking at this one small thing. We look at the whole picture.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate that. We have run quite a bit here. There's a lot of really great information that I can't wait to share with our audience. And I know that I have a lot of small business owners that are listeners of I Am Northwest Arkansas and others. But just to finally close out, Angel, Will, Sam, do you have any final last words? And Angel, I'll let you go first. since we didn't let you go first before, I'll let you go first now. I apologize about that.
That's fine. I guess the biggest lesson or the thing I can say is, in our lifetime, we're going to click that link, we're going to download that attachment, and instead of trying to hide that, please share that information as quickly as possible so that people that are experiencing this can go and fix it. It is very hard to figure out if it's a legitimate email or a phishing email these days. They're really good at it. Yeah. But you just make sure that you share and you don't try to hide it, and understand that 95% on top of this, 95% of breaches come from phishing emails.
Right.
So we're aware of that.
Right. Wow. Yep. That's crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Sam? Wow.
Yeah, I would just say that, be thinking about this sort of stuff, and be thinking about the risks and threats that you as a company have, especially when we have all of the events that are happening as we talked about. This is not something that you could just put off as a company, no matter how big your organization is, no matter what your organization does. You need to have people thinking about this. And the big thing too is that it's everyone's job. It's not just an IT person's job. It's not just if you have a chief of information security, it's not their job. It's everyone from the CEO down to the intern. Everyone's job is security, and everyone needs to be thinking about threats at their level. So,
yeah, I like that. Okay. And last but not least, Will, you have something to add?
Yeah. I think Angel and Sam covered it pretty well. Just remember, no matter what size business you are, if you're concerned, if you're worried, if you've got a problem, feel free to reach out to us. Even if you're not our customer, we will do our best to help you however we can, and try to allay your fears and get you guys in a good spot to be able to continue your business and make sure that in these trying times you don't become a statistic. You're able to continue doing business well after April, May, June timeframe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause and that's part of the reason why I'm doing these. Is just to get on top of, people's fear factor, if you will. And I appreciate you guys coming on such short notice just to kind of provide some expertise and really get into the weeds of what it is that you guys do on a regular basis that so many of us look at and say, oh my God, that's just so beyond my understanding that I don't know what to do. I'm just going to stick my head in the ground. And so you guys are there to kind of help people through these situations and these tough times. And so I really appreciate you sharing your experience and understanding. And certainly anybody listening to this, if IT doesn't stand for information technology in your book, then you need to give Edafio a call. You need to understand what it is all about. If you run a small business and you've kind of have a patchwork of computers connected together and you don't know what a VPN is, you need to contact these guys because I'm sure they can help you institute even a couple of small things that will put you on the straight and narrow path to protecting your organization, protecting your company, and even protecting your clients. So I certainly want to encourage you to do that. And I really appreciate you guys just sharing some personal items that can help the average individual. And I'm going to kind of parse these out and share anecdotally some of this information because I think it will be very helpful for anybody listening, whether you're in Northwest Arkansas or beyond. We could all stand to protect ourselves a little better from a cybersecurity perspective. So thank you guys all so much. Will, Sam, Angel, I really appreciate it. And big shout out to Melissa Swan, the marketing director at Edafio, for pulling this all together. And that's pretty much all I have. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, really appreciate it.
No problem. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. And as I said, I don't know whether you're listening to this sometime in right after it was recorded, or if you even listening to this 6 months from now, we will have gone through a very difficult and serious time, and it's good to have friends. It's good to know people and to be able to get good quality information, and that's what we're trying to provide here at IAM Northwest Arkansas. So again, I really appreciate the folks from Edafio coming on such short notice to share their expertise and understanding of things that can honestly be a little bit scary. And we'll get through this, folks. We're all, as I like to say, I created a little moniker the other day, NWA Strong. So that's going to be our new moniker. I mean, every part of the country has to find something to attach to. And I'm just saying that because of the resiliency of the people of the Ozarks and how we figure out a way to come together and unite, we'll be better because of this situation and not weaker because of it. So that's all I have for today. I will see you with a new episode very soon. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of IAM Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit iamnorthwestarkansas.com. We'll see you next week on IAM Northwest Arkansas.